Beloved, listen to me with all your heart. God never told you to go and find a job. He never said, go and spend your life chasing a paycheck. He said, go into the world and fulfill your assignment. Yet today, millions wake up every morning, rushing into a life God never designed for them, living in cycles of stress, confusion, and emptiness. You see, the enemy's greatest deception is not always sins, it's distraction. If he cannot make you bad, he will make you busy. And many of us are busy building someone else's dream while abandoning the very reason we were born. This message is not just a sermon, it is a spiritual intervention. If you dare to listen till the end, God will shift the way you see work, money, purpose, and success, and you will never live an ordinary life again. From the beginning of creation, God never gave Adam a job, He gave him dominion. Dominion is not employment, it is assignment. It is not about how many hours you clock in, but about how many lives you transform. The world taught you to search for a job. Heaven commands you to discover your calling. A job pays you a salary, but a calling pays you with legacy. And until you find that divine assignment, your soul will always feel incomplete. From childhood, we are conditioned to survive, get a degree, get a job, retire. But that system was never God's system. That is Egypt's system, a system designed to enslave creativity, silence vision, and keep you too tired to ask, why am I here? But you were not born to survive. You were born to serve the kingdom. You were not created to be an employee. You were created to be an ambassador, a representative of heaven on earth. Jesus said, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Let me ask you, what does it profit you to climb the corporate ladder, buy the house, get the promotion, yet die never knowing why you were born? That is not success, that is lost life. True success is not measured by income, but by impact. It is not how much you earn, but how much you obey. Your assignment is not found in a job search. It is discovered in the presence of God. Ask Him, Lord, why did you send me here? And when you hear that still, small voice, obey it with your whole life. The moment you align your work with God's instruction, you will see doors open that no employer could ever open. Provision follows purpose. Resources chase revelation. Stop worrying about money. Stop fearing bills. Heaven finances purpose. When God gives you a vision, He gives you provision. If He sent you, He will sustain you. This is why many who walk in their calling live beyond what their salary could ever provide. Because when you work for the kingdom, you are on heaven's payroll. Today, God is calling you higher. No more living as a slave to a system. No more trading your destiny for a paycheck. No more hiding your gifts in the shadows of safety. You are not an employee. You are a kingdom agent. Your job may be a platform, but it is not your purpose. Your career may be a tool, but it is not your calling. Step into the assignment you were born for, and you will see that work was never meant to be a burden. It was meant to be worship. This is your wake-up call. Stop chasing jobs. Start seeking purpose. Because the moment you walk in what God designed you for, work stops being something you do. It becomes who you are. And when that happens, you will never work another day in your life. You will live every single day with divine meaning, unstoppable joy, and eternal impact. Work was never meant to be a prison. It was meant to be a platform for purpose. When God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden, He did not hand him a job description with working hours and a salary. He gave him dominion, authority over creation, a mandate to cultivate and multiply, to manage what was entrusted to him. That was not employment, that was assignment. This is the first divine principle humanity has forgotten. You were never designed to be employed. You were designed to be deployed. Employment is man's system, a structure built to keep economies functioning. Deployment is God's system, a mission that activates your gifts to fulfill a heavenly purpose. And when you live deployed, you stop chasing paychecks and start building legacies. Most people spend their entire lives searching for a job that pays well, one that brings temporary security. But they never stop to ask the deeper question, why was I born? They fill out applications, polish resumes, attend interviews, and climb ladders that lead nowhere, all while ignoring the assignment written into their soul before they were even born. A job may give you stability, but it can never give you significance. Only calling can do that. A job will use your hands, but a calling will set your heart on fire. A job is something you do for money, but a calling is something you would do even if money didn't exist. That is the divine difference. The tragedy is that most people confuse activity with destiny. They are busy, but not purposeful. They are productive, but not impactful. They achieve, but they do not fulfill. God never said, go and get a job. He said, go and bear fruit. He said, occupy until I come. He said, do business with what I have given you. That means every skill, every idea, every talent inside you was placed there as part of a heavenly assignment. If you bury it under the weight of someone else's vision, you rob the world of the very reason you exist. When you live deployed instead of employed, everything changes. Your work stops being about survival and starts being about service. You stop asking, how much will they pay me? And start asking, how much can I impact? You stop measuring success by promotions and start measuring it by transformation. And ironically, when you walk in your assignment, resources begin to chase you instead of you chasing them. God funds purpose, not positions. Heaven pays for what it orders. This is why many people who follow their calling, even if it starts small and uncertain, often end up influencing more lives, generating more provision, and living with more joy than those who spend decades in safe, predictable jobs. Because when you do what you were created to do, work no longer feels like labor, it feels like life. And life, in its truest form, is not about clocking in and out. It is about pouring out everything God placed inside you. The greatest tragedy is not dying without money. It is dying without fulfilling the reason you were sent. God doesn't want employees, He wants ambassadors. He doesn't hire you, He sends you. And until you embrace that truth, you will always work hard, but wonder why it still feels like something is missing deep inside your soul. From the moment you are born, the world begins to train you for one thing: survival. It teaches you to go to school, get good grades, find a job, and earn a paycheck. It celebrates those who work long hours, climb corporate ladders, and retire with a pension. Yet beneath all of this, a quiet tragedy unfolds. People forget why they were created. The system conditions you to be a worker, not a visionary, an employee, not a messenger. And without even realizing it, you trade your divine destiny for a false sense of security. This is the trap of survival, a cycle so subtle and so normalized that most never escape it. But the truth is, you were never created to simply make a living. You were created to make a difference. The enemy knows this, and that's why he doesn't always come with temptation or destruction. Sometimes he comes with distraction. If he cannot make you rebel against God, he will make you forget God's assignment for your life. And one of his greatest tools is the system of survival. It keeps you so busy trying to pay bills and chase promotions that you no longer have time to hear God's voice. You become so focused on what's urgent that you neglect what's eternal. You spend decades running on a treadmill of work, but you never take a step toward your calling. And while society applauds your hard work, heaven weeps over your wasted potential. When God placed you on this earth, He didn't design you to be trapped by necessity. He promised to be your provider. He said, "Seek first my kingdom and my righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you." That means provision was never meant to be your pursuit. Purpose was. But the world flips that truth upside down. It convinces you that provision must come first and purpose can wait. So you postpone dreams, bury talents, silence visions, and settle for a life that is good enough. But good enough is the enemy of God's best. You see, survival is not life, it's existing. And existing is not the same as living. You can work 40 years at a job, retire comfortably, and still leave this earth without ever doing the one thing you were born to do. You can pay all your bills and still miss your assignment. You can succeed in the world's eyes and fail in God's. The enemy wants you so focused on surviving that you never dare to create, build, lead, or serve in the way heaven intended. But when you wake up and realize that provision is God's responsibility and obedience is yours, everything shifts. You stop chasing paychecks and start pursuing purpose. You stop working out of fear and start living out of faith. And the moment you do, the trap of survival loses its power over your destiny. There is a kind of death that does not come with a funeral. It does not involve a casket or a grave. It is the death of purpose, the slow, silent wasting away of a life that was never lived as it was meant to be. Jesus asked, "What does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul?" And yet every day, millions of people do exactly that. They build successful careers, accumulate wealth, receive applause, and achieve milestones. Yet deep inside, they know something is missing. They wake up with a sense of emptiness they cannot explain. That emptiness is not depression, it's a sign. It's the soul's cry when destiny is ignored. It's the inner voice saying, "I was made for more than this." Living without purpose is not living at all. It is breathing without meaning, working without fulfillment, existing without impact. You can have money, fame, and recognition, yet still feel dead inside, because none of those things were designed to satisfy the reason you exist. The human spirit was not created to be sustained by comfort. It was created to be fueled by calling. That's why even after achieving everything the world says you should desire, there's often a deep hunger that refuses to go away. That hunger is not for more money, more power, or more recognition. It's for significance. It's for alignment with the assignment God placed in you before you were even born. The tragedy is that many people never answer that call. They confuse success with purpose, position with destiny, and comfort with calling. They spend decades climbing ladders only to realize they were leaning against the wrong wall. They chase achievements, but their hearts remain restless. And that restlessness is heaven's way of reminding you that you were made for more than survival. You were made for service. You were not created to pass through this world unnoticed. You were created to leave fingerprints of eternity on everything you touch. When a person lives outside of purpose, they may have everything, but still feel like they have nothing. That is what it means to live a lost life. A lost life is not necessarily a wasted life in the eyes of the world, but it is one that heaven mourns. It is a life that was meant to heal the broken, but never did. A voice that was meant to speak truth, but stayed silent. A heart that was meant to build, but chose to merely survive. And the enemy delights in that kind of life. Not because you sinned, but because you settled. But here is the truth. God never intended for you to just exist. He placed unique gifts passions, and assignments inside you that no one else can fulfill. If you don't live them out, they die with you. Purpose is what makes life worth living. It gives meaning to sacrifice, power to perseverance, and direction to every step you take. Without it, even the greatest success will feel hollow, and even the longest life will feel short. That is why the most dangerous thing is not losing your job, your money, or your status. It's losing your purpose. Because once that's gone, you stop truly living long before your heart stops beating. The reason so many people never discover their true calling is because they are looking for it in all the wrong places. They search job listings, chase opportunities, attend seminars, and read endless self-help books, hoping that somewhere in the noise of the world, they will stumble upon their destiny. But purpose is not something you research. It is something you receive. It is not something you figure out with logic. It is something you discern with your spirit. Your assignment is not found outside of you. It is whispered by the one who created you. And until you learn to hear that voice, you will always confuse business with purpose and activity with destiny. God is not hiding your calling from you. He is waiting for you to get quiet enough to hear it. The noise of the world, the deadlines, the distractions, the demands often drowns out the still, small voice of God. Yet it is in the quiet moments of prayer, worship, and surrender that He begins to reveal why you were born. Many people never discover this because they spend their lives asking everyone else what they should do, instead of asking the one who formed them in their mother's womb. Your purpose was written before your first breath, and only the author can reveal the script. The reason divine direction is so crucial is because it gives your life precision. Without it, you waste time pursuing things that look good but aren't God. You chase opportunities that promise success but deliver emptiness. You accept jobs, projects, and even relationships that feel right in the moment but pull you further from your assignment. But when you hear God's instruction clearly, it simplifies everything. Decisions become easier because destiny defines direction. You no longer chase everything. You pursue only what aligns with your calling. And when you obey the voice of God, something powerful happens. Doors open that no array some could open. Favor finds you in places where qualifications fail, and provision flows in ways that make no earthly sense. Because heaven backs obedience. God never gives a vision without also giving provision. The moment you align your actions with His instruction, resources, people, and opportunities begin to align with you. This is why some people seem to accomplish more in a few years of obedience than others do in decades of effort. Because they are walking in revelation, not just ambition. But obedience requires trust. It means moving even when you don't see the full picture. It means stepping out of your comfort zone when God says, go. It means letting go of the plan you created so you can embrace the purpose He designed. And that is where many hesitate. They want certainty before they obey. But faith doesn't work that way. Faith is stepping even when you don't see the staircase. And the beauty is, once you take that step, clarity often follows obedience. God rarely gives you the entire map. He gives you the next instruction. And when you follow that instruction, you find yourself exactly where you were always meant to be, living a life not driven by human plans, but directed by divine purpose. One of the greatest revelations you can ever receive about work, money, and destiny is this: God funds assignments, not employment. The world has taught us that if we want provision, we must secure a job, work hard, and climb the ladder to financial safety. And while diligence is important, that mindset is rooted in a limited earthly system. God's economy operates on a completely different principle. Provision follows purpose. In other words, when you step into the assignment heaven designed for you, resources begin to pursue you. You don't chase them, they chase you. This is why Jesus said, "Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you." He never told you to seek money, security, or opportunity. He told you to seek purpose, and everything else would follow. The reason many people live in constant anxiety over finances is because they are trying to fund what God never ordered. They are striving to sustain a lifestyle, a dream, or a job that he never assigned. But heaven only pays for what heaven orders. If God didn't send you to do it, you will always struggle to keep it alive. On the other hand, when you step into the work he created you for, doors that were once closed begin to open. Favor appears in unexpected places. Ideas come that generate provision in ways you could never have orchestrated. Because the king always provides for his ambassadors, and you are not a hireling in a worldly system. You are a representative of heaven's agenda. Think of Moses. He didn't need to raise an army or gather resources before confronting Pharaoh. God sent him, and because God sent him, heaven backed him. Think of Elijah. He didn't need to plant crops or build storage barns before the famine. God sent him, and because God sent him, ravens fed him, and a widow sustained him. Think of the disciples. They didn't need financial guarantees before launching their ministry. God sent them, and because God sent them, provision met them everywhere they went. The pattern is always the same: assignment first, provision second. This truth frees you from the fear that so many live under. You don't have to spend your life chasing money, hustling endlessly, or worrying about how you will survive. If you are in alignment with God's will, survival is guaranteed. He is not just your creator, he is your source. Jobs can end, markets can collapse, and economies can fail, but the kingdom never runs out of resources. The same God who fed 5,000 with 5 loaves and 2 fish can multiply whatever you place in his hands. But here's the condition: you must walk in obedience. Provision is not attached to good ideas, it's attached to God ideas. It is not linked to ambition, it is linked to assignment. When you try to force God to fund your plans, frustration follows. But when you surrender and follow his instructions, miracles happen. Suddenly, you'll see that the paycheck you once thought was your source was only a tool, and the real source was always God. That's why those who live for their calling often experience overflow even with fewer resources, while those who live for a paycheck often feel like it's never enough. Because money is not meant to be your master. It's meant to be a servant to your mission. There comes a moment in every believer's journey when God calls you to shift from thinking like an employee to thinking like an ambassador. An employee waits for instructions, collects a salary, and measures their worth by the position they hold. But an ambassador carries authority, represents a kingdom, and fulfills a mission far greater than themselves. Too many people spend their entire lives living with an employee mentality, working just to survive, chasing titles to feel valuable, and staying within the safe boundaries of what's expected. But you were never meant to live like that. You were never designed to just clock in and out of life. You were created to represent heaven on earth, to bring God's ideas into human systems, his solutions into human problems, and his presence into human spaces. When you understand that you are an ambassador, your entire mindset shifts. You no longer see your work as a burden, you see it as a platform. You stop saying, "I work for a company," and start declaring, "I serve a kingdom." You stop asking, "What's in it for me?" and start asking, "What does heaven want to accomplish through me here?" That shift is powerful because it transforms the mundane into the meaningful. Even if you remain in the same career or position, your purpose within it becomes radically different. You're not just showing up for a paycheck. You're showing up to change atmospheres, to influence culture, to demonstrate the character and wisdom of God in everything you do. The world says your value is determined by how much you earn, how high you climb, or how much power you hold. But the kingdom says your value is determined by the assignment you carry. An ambassador doesn't worry about their salary because the king provides for their needs. They don't compete for promotion because they are already seated in authority. They don't fear losing their position because their calling is not dependent on human approval. When you adopt this mindset, fear loses its grip on you. You're no longer afraid of layoffs, failures, or changes in the economy because you know your source is not the system. Your source is God. This shift also liberates you from the smallness of self-centered goals. Employees think about personal success, promotions, raises, recognition. Ambassadors think about kingdom impact, transformation, service, obedience. An employee can be replaced, but an ambassador is irreplaceable because they are not functioning in a role, they are fulfilling a mission. And when you live like that, doors open not because of your resume, but because of your representation. Favor finds you not because of your credentials, but because of your calling. You begin to understand that wherever God places you, in a business, a classroom, a government office, a creative field, you are there as His representative, and the assignment is always bigger than the position. Once you see yourself this way, work stops being something you endure and becomes something you express. Your job may still exist, but it is no longer your identity. It becomes a tool, a stage, a divine appointment where heavens can flow through your hands. And when you start living and thinking like an ambassador, the ordinary becomes extraordinary. The routine becomes sacred, and your life ceases to be about climbing ladders and starts being about fulfilling divine assignments. That's when you realize you were never meant to simply work for money, for you were meant to walk in authority, advance the kingdom, and leave a legacy that echoes in eternity. Beloved, the time has come to stop living small. The time has come to stop chasing jobs, titles, and paychecks as if they define who you are. You were never created to be a slave to survival. You were created to be a steward of purpose. Before you were born, God placed within you gifts, ideas, and assignments that this world desperately needs. And as long as you keep searching for security in what is temporary, you will miss the eternal reason you were sent here. This message is not about abandoning work. It's about transforming the way you see it. Work is not a punishment. It is worship. It is not about making a living. It is about making a difference. It is not about serving a system. It is about serving a kingdom. When you understand that, every day becomes sacred, every task becomes meaningful, and every season becomes a step in fulfilling your destiny. So stop asking, where can I get hired? And start asking, where can I be deployed? Stop asking, what's safe? And start asking, what's significant? Because the safest place you can ever be is not in a stable job. It's in the center of God's will. And once you step into that calling, you will discover that provision, favor, opportunity, and impact are not things you chase. They are things that chase you. You were not placed on this earth to survive. You were placed here to represent heaven, to build, to heal, to teach, to lead, to create, to serve, and to leave behind a legacy that outlives your name. So rise up, embrace the assignment, walk boldly into the calling for which you were born. And when you do, you will not just work, you will live.